Alice has asked, can you further explain exposition and reflection? It seems the hero is the narrator and whatever she tells the reader is exposition. Is tension interior and conflict exterior? Okay. So that's a great question. I do tend to blur them together, reflection and exposition. I think because my editor of my young adult books does that. She kind of uses them interchangeably. But if we want to get really technical about it, reflection is things that is in the character's head, that are the character is thinking about. So you can think of like internal thoughts, even like flashing back to something can be a reflection, or planning something in the future would be a reflection, where exposition is really defined as things that the narrator is telling the reader that the reader needs to know. So information about, a certain relationship, information about a certain setting, that can all be described as exposition. Why it starts to blur is because, particularly when you're writing in first person, technically everything that is not dialogue or action is in the character's head, right? Because the first person narrator is narrating this. It's coming from their head. So you could kind of say that it's all reflection, but it really doesn't matter what you call them. Exposition and reflection have the same issues, which is that when you rely on them too heavily, the pacing tends to slow, because what exposition and reflection have in common is that they are not action. Neither of them typically are action. So it means that the character is not actually doing anything when they're explaining something or when they're reflecting on something. They are in their heads. So that's why they kind of sometimes will get confused, or they'll just get molded together, because they are sort of that thing that slows the plot down when we have too much of it. So it's just things that you want to look out for. You want to look out for too much exposition, and you want to look out for too much reflection, and you want to make sure you're weaving that in with action and dialogue, because that feels more immediate and it gives scenes momentum. Whereas exposition and reflection can be very important in building interiority, in giving the reader information that they need to follow the scene, but just beware that it is what typically can slow a scene. So the second part of your question, is tension interior and conflict exterior? I actually don't think it's that cut and dry. Conflict can absolutely be exterior or interior. So if you haven't already, I'll just do a high level here, but if you haven't already looked at the revision course, even without, taking the whole course, you might want to just dip in there. I have a full lecture on conflict in the story level revision and a full lecture on tension in the story level revision. So you can get a little bit deeper into those concepts. But high level is external conflict are things that are happening on the outside of the character, things that are kind of thwarting their goals or getting in their way that are happening outside of them, while internal conflict are things that are happening inside their head. So these are fears, these are, self-worth issues. I break down 5 different kinds of internal conflict in there. So I'm trying to remember. Conflict with their motivations, like, do I really want to do this? Is this really what I actually set out to do? Conflict with their identity. Who am I? Those are all internal types of conflict that often arise because of external conflict. But there definitely is examples of both. In terms of tension can be exterior as well, and it can also be interior. Because I think really what both of these things do, tension and conflict, is what all plots do, which is that you throw external things at your character, whether those be tense situations or dangerous situations, and we watch what happens to them. Like, how is this going to affect them? And that is really always the question you should be asking yourself as you write a story is, okay, here's something else. What's that going to do to you? It's sort of like you're playing this really mind master game. You're totally messing with your characters, but you're like, what's that going to do? And what if I give you this? And how's that going to affect you inside? And how's that going to help you grow or not grow? So that's kind of the way I like to think about exterior and interior, both conflict and tension. I hope that helps. If you enjoyed this video, we've got a lot more on writingmastery.com. Check the description for links to our blog, free writing tools, and more. Happy writing.